Hi, I'm Tess Piscatelli, and we're back with another episode of The Edge, where we discuss controversial topics to benefit our students here at PTHS. Teens are often on their phones on some sort of social media site. Many adults don't understand the obsession with social media because they didn't have the same accessibility to the internet. Teens generally want to share what they are doing and how they feel online. In addition to Facebook, teens have access to many different social media apps now, like Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. As we all know, but don't always follow, putting your entire life online can also be detrimental to you in the future because what you put online can always be traced back to you later in life. So today we are here talking with Officer Stevick, who has been a police officer for the past 26 years and has been our resource officer here at PTHS since 2012. He has helped students resolve problems that they've been having with social media, and he is here to share his expertise about the problems at PTHS. Okay, so what is your overall opinion about social media in general?
Thanks for having me. And first of all, social media is a great thing to have. It's opened up a lot of people who ordinarily can't communicate well with others to try and find friends. It's a way to stay in touch with relatives and friends who are no longer in the area. So it definitely has its benefits. Its negatives are sometimes we know too much about each other. Sometimes we put too much of our own personal life out there on social media. So, when you're with somebody 8 hours a day, you really don't want to talk to them for 8 hours a day, right? Yeah. But with social media, it tends to be that just want you to drive down the road and watch how many people are on their telephones, either searching or talking, right? So we're in constant communication, and constant communication can be bad at times.
Yeah. In this school, would you say it is what type of role has it played within the students and teachers?
Well, it's played a good role. So let's say that there's a platform, an educational platform that you guys can use during the school day or even outside of school where you can communicate with your teachers. My understanding, Edmodo? So you can post something, but it has to be authorized by the teacher, and you don't have to give too much information, right?
Yeah.
The negatives, to me, are overbearing. You're talking about severe depression, anxiety issues, and a lot of these are caused by social media.
And how would it be caused by social media? What are some things?
Once again, the cyberbullying is a big issue right now, right? So ordinarily, you wouldn't say something to somebody's face that you're more than willing to put out in a moment of anger just by using those little thumbs, right?
Yeah.
And that stuff really cannot be taken away very easily if it ever does. And so if you're looking at that, the analogy I like to use with kids, when we were kids, if somebody didn't like me, they and maybe two of their friends didn't like me, they were upset with me for whatever reason, and that was a lot to take. Now let's just use Facebook. We all have friends, right? They're not really your friends. But we put something nasty about somebody and 500 people hit the like button. Now, that's a lot for anybody to take. That they have 500 people who liked the disparaging remark about them.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And what type of, not what type, but how would you deal with cyberbullying here?
Right, so cyberbullying, we encourage anybody, any teen, any student who is suffering from what they believe is bullying. And look, just because somebody hurts your feelings from a post does not necessarily mean it's cyberbullying. And we will post, I believe we have the section under Title 18 of harassment.
Yeah.
And we can go over that.
Yeah, can you put the image on the screen? It's harassment of a child. This is a section in
the Pennsylvania Crimes Code.
Gotcha. And a person commits the crime of cyber harassment of a child with the intent to harass, annoy, and alarm the person engaging in continuing course of conduct of making any and the following electronic means directly to a child and or by publication through an electronic social media service. So what would be the, like, not precautions, but how would there be any consequences to bullying, cyberbullying?
Absolutely. So cyberbullying under that, and it basically is a low-level crime, but it can become serious. It has to be a continuous course of conduct. It has to be, it has to meet certain requirements there. You have to make or a threat, right, of harm. You have to threaten to harm somebody. But most of those first level, the first time you would be cited under that section, the state has to give you the opportunity to go through a diversionary program. The diversionary program is basically you're going to go through the system and you're going to learn why what you did was wrong. It's not going to be easy, and you're not going to get out of it. But when you're done, you can legally say, I have never been arrested or cited for anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this school, do you get more cyberbullying accounts than normal bullying accounts?
Absolutely. Our students are great, but they have times when things are bad and they tend to put things out. And like I said, it's easier to do from when you're at home sitting in your bedroom to start these harassing text messages or social media messages rather than to walk up to somebody's face anymore and do it.
Yeah. So where should we draw the line of what's put online and what not to put online?
All right, so honestly, if you wouldn't say it in person, don't say it online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How has social media benefited you, like within the school?
Well, within the school, one of the things you guys see me walk around and talk to everybody, but I get plenty of, let's say, concerned parents or citizens who will call, and they'll bring up what they believe to be discouraging remarks or disturbing photos on somebody's social media. So if it's an open public site, look, that's part of our job is to go on and check these things out. And although a lot of times we can't take action, it does give us some knowledge as to what that person's all about, right? So it benefits us that way, and it benefits us to see if there are text messages that may show a student in a decline. Their grades are falling, and you can get on there and see exactly why, or see why they may be failing at that time.
Okay, you brought up parents. How could a parent not direct what their child puts online, but help, not monitor what their child puts online?
Okay, so I'm going to make a lot of my students upset. First of all, unless you pay for that phone and that cell service, I encourage all parents to monitor what's going on those phones. You don't have to go in every day and lock down the phone and, you come in here and give me all this, but be knowledgeable, learn how to do it. All you have to do is Google these things, and it'll tell you how you can monitor, or actual websites that can help you monitor. Learn about the vaults that their kids may have on there that hold photos or messages. Look, mine is if I start seeing something out of the ordinary, sadness, depression, then I'm going to want to monitor that phone. I want to see what's going on, and it's my phone.
Yeah.
It's not your phone until you start paying for it. And, part of that is trust, but we have way too many who don't know what social media is all about. Way too many parents. But they do have to monitor that and restrict. I mean, to have 15 social media sites and you're constantly seeing drama, stop. If you're the best kid in the world and you don't have any issues and you have 15 social mail, it's not affecting you. So, it's not a bad thing to have.
Yeah. I know a lot of us don't really see how social media could affect teens in the future. how could it affect, like, what you put online affect what you do in the future?
Look, colleges, employers, military, they employ people to actually go back and look at what you've done on social media. It's one of the biggest problems they have out there is that they're not going to, if they see a problem, they're not going to want you in their school, right? If they see a problem, your, let's just say, employment, you're bashing your past employer online, they're not going to want to hire you because they know if something happens with you there, you know, so it has those effects. It could stop you from doing something you wanted to do.
Okay, say my profile is private. Why does it matter what I put online if it's private?
That's a good question. I would tell you that it's never totally private, right? Because how many followers or friends do you have that aren't, right? So once you go on to theirs, are you private? No, right? So once again, there's nothing I'm trying to come up with a good example for you as to what is on those phones. So one of our biggest problems with the phones through social media is sexually explicit photos, right? So we do something stupid and that picture goes out there. Now if that picture goes away in Snapchat, there's a good chance it's probably gone. But if that person is able to capture that and passes it on, it is out there for the world at that point, right?
Yeah.
And just so you know, and I want everybody to know that if you were ever to be found guilty of that offense, and those offenses lead all the way up into more serious crimes, you lose your phone. Your phone is forfeited. There is no getting it back, and that is a $600 to $1,000 phone, right? And all that data. So on one data dump that we had to do for evidence, there were 4,600 pages of documentation on that phone. So that just tells you how much information is on there. Okay?
Yeah, that's a lot of information about what you can and can't put online.
Absolutely.
So what you put online is not totally private. It's for the public to see and it's there forever.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for sharing your expertise with us on how social media is not only affecting us now, but how it will in the future. And we'll be back after a short break with Mr. Adam Swinchock, who is the Director of Instructional Technology with the Peters Township School District, to talk about how the school is dealing with social media and how to effectively use it. Thank you.
My grandfather served in World War II. Spending time with him were the best memories of my life. I became a physician at VA because of my grandfather, so I can help others like him. I can't imagine working with better doctors or a more dedicated staff. I'm fulfilling my life's mission with the help of my team and thanks to these veterans. I'm proud to be a doctor at VA and proud to honor my grandfather every day. Search VA Careers to find out more.
And we're back and are joined with Mr. Adam Swinchock, who is the Director of Instructional Technology within Peters Township School District, to talk about the way the school handles social media and how teens can effectively use it. Mr. Swinchock has been a technical director for 12 years and has worked at Peters Township for 4 years. He oversees the district's educational and informational technology resources. Everything from your laptop computer to the networking systems that make sure everyone can access online resources. Thank you for being here and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
And what is your general opinion of social media?
I think it depends. In a lot of cases, I think it is extremely valuable for students and adults as well, but there's always a flip side to that coin where sometimes it doesn't always work out all that well. But overall, it's a positive view of social media.
Yeah, and then do you think schools have been, over the years, integrating more and more technology and social media into their schools?
I really do. You'll see a lot of it here at the Peters Township School District as far with our communications coordinator. So a lot of your parents are tied into our Facebook accounts and our Twitter accounts to find out, exactly what's happening here in the district. A lot of teachers have actually implemented in their classrooms where they'll post interesting topics and students are allowed to comment on that. So yes, I do feel like it is absolutely grown within the district, and it really has a good footprint now.
I think my teachers have more websites though.
Okay.
So I don't think I check their websites as much as I check my social media.
I was going to say, do you mind if I ask why?
I don't go on the internet, like more on my phone, not on the internet,
Exactly.
on a computer.
And that's the power of social media, especially with students in high school now. What we found is students spend a lot of time on social media and not so much on web pages. And that's why it's a really good outlet for teachers to be able to communicate with those students, because that is the avenue and the roadway that they're using to access information now.
So they would have their own, like, pages on a social media?
They absolutely could. Some of the things that school districts are creating now is, instead of using public social media sites, they're actually creating their own internal social media sites. So they have subscriptions to companies like Microsoft, where they use a service called Yammer that looks exactly like Facebook, but just it's internal. It doesn't allow outside people to comment on discussions that they're having within the school.
So that would be like Edmodo.
Kind of like that, yeah, exactly. A private social media network.
Gotcha. And would teachers know? Would
Got it, go ahead.
So teachers are using social media to benefit their students, but how is like the school in general? Like, not teachers, does administration use social media?
We really do, and it's about speed of communication for us. So we have the same problem that you do. If we do a telephone blast for a school cancellation, let's say that's what's happened, or a water main break in a building, a lot of the times parents will actually see that on social media faster than they would get it through a email blast or looking at our webpage or getting a phone call. It's significantly faster, and it allows us to reach a lot more people than we normally would. For instance, if a student is staying with their uncle for the evening and there's a water main break in the school, they'll be able to see it on social media, where we may not have their phone number or their email address in order for them to be able to see that maybe school is canceled or delayed for that day. So it gives us a lot more avenues and a lot quicker response.
Yeah. So in school, we're not allowed to use social media, but like I know our administration does and everything.
Yeah.
But on the Wi-Fi here at school, everything's blocked.
It currently is, and a lot of that has to do with issues that are prevalent in today's society, and one of those things is cyberbullying. It's our responsibility in the school district to protect students in a lot of cases, so we do block a lot of the social media that comes through the door here. Not all social media is also, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things. Pinterest can be included in that. And one of the examples that we always talk about with teachers is they really want to use Pinterest because it has some really great resources for in the classroom. However, there are some questionable images that are out there and questionable content that is classified as maybe art photos and art videos. And by law, I can't let that information get in the door. Unfortunately, I can't filter that information through Pinterest to only allow the good stuff through and prevent the bad stuff from getting through. It's the same thing with Facebook and Twitter. I can't disallow the bad comments and the negative comments and the bullying comments and only allow the good things to come through. I can only allow or disallow a service. So that's one of the reasons that we do it.
Okay, so there's apps that can let us go on those blocked services. I don't know if any of those apps are blocked though, but like, what do you do with that situation?
And a lot of the times we're actually looking at everything's going on the network. So we're able to see certain things that are happening. And as we see those resources start to pop up, you'll see that they may work for one day or work for a couple hours, and then they disappear. Unfortunately for us on the IT side of things, it's almost a never-ending battle. As soon as we find one, another one pops up.
Oh, so that's why like one VPN will work and not work.
We are constantly
the next
fighting
day.
you guys, yeah.
Gotcha. And then, so you said you could see stuff on the network.
Yes.
Does that mean you could see, if we're on the Wi-Fi and we're texting someone, does that mean you could see what we're texting?
I can see all of your texts, no, I can't see any of that stuff. I made her very nervous.
Yeah, you did actually.
We can't see those types of things. In a lot of cases, that information is protected by the encryption on your telephone.
Okay.
But especially if you're using your connection via LTE or your service provider, all of that is regulated by the FCC. We don't have the ability nor the right to be able to look at that type of information.
Okay, so.
Make you feel better?
Yeah, a little bit. But you can, like, I don't understand. What can you see whenever if you said you're checking the networks, you can see what apps we're using, but not what we're doing on them?
Yes, and I can't divulge too much here.
Okay.
Because then I'm going to give away all my secrets that we use to be able to protect you guys as well. We don't want you to see everything that's happening.
So I know you guys block stuff, but if we have like LTE whenever we're in school, what's the point of blocking stuff if we're just going to go on it on LTE?
That's a really good question, and it has a lot to do with funding more than anything else. And a lot of the questions I get there is, well, how does funding have anything to do with our internet connection? But the reality is we get reimbursement for our internet connection that we use here in the school district from the federal government. And because we get that funding, we have to comply with something that's called CIPA, and it's the Child Information Protection Act, where we have to be able to filter things that are considered harmful for students under the age of 17. So the connection is really where that lies. Those regulations haven't caught up to current technologies. They've been around for a very long time, but that's why we have to filter on our network, and we don't do anything on your LTE, other than the fact that we're also not allowed to filter your phones. There was a rumor going around last year that we were blocking cell phones here in the district, so much so that the FCC actually showed up and walked the building. That was a very stressful time for me. But in fact, we are not trying to block cell phone signals. In fact, we are actively trying to get cell phone signals better coverage into the building. So it's a more secure and more accessible environment.
Yeah,
So
I noticed I never have service anywhere.
Unfortunately, that is the area more than anything else. You'll notice that even when you're outside, you're maybe getting 2 bars.
Yeah.
I live over the hill from the school district, and I only get 1 bar on my cell phone when I'm in my house. So we are doing a lot of stuff to try and actually boost those signals in the buildings to make it a little bit more accessible. But you're really grilling me here.
The road right in front of the high school barely gets
Barely get it. Yep.
So you are for the whole like Peters Township School District. Do you go to every school, right?
I do. I spend a lot of time in the different buildings, but I'm based out of the administration office next to the middle school.
Oh, okay. So speaking of the middle school, the middle school isn't allowed to use their phones at all, but the high school is very BYOD, and like if you don't finish your homework, take a picture of it, have it whenever you're at home.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Why isn't the middle school like that if the high school like really is?
A lot of it has to do with responsibility and maturity more than anything else. We use that time in the middle school with a lot of our tech ed teachers to educate students about what you should and shouldn't do on the internet whenever you're using resources like that, in preparation for you to get ready to use that when you enter 9th grade and go into 12th grade. So we use that as a controlled environment to get them ready for this instance more than anything else. It's similar to driving. You go for your permit before you're able to learn to drive, and then you get your license. We treat it that way.
Does what your the maturity level? What's the difference between? I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, what's really the difference between like a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old from?
More than you would think. But I get what you're saying. A lot of the times there may not be a maturity level difference between a 7th grader and a senior. We have absolutely seen that in certain cases.
Yeah.
But it's a philosophy that we've been employing here in the district for a while, and we continue to evaluate it, but right now we're just going to stay the course with that.
Do you think a student could effectively use social media to like benefit their life in the future for like college, or how could someone use that to benefit them for like college? Or
Absolutely, and this is where I wish I had social networking whenever I was young. This type of stuff wasn't around when I was there. I didn't have the smartphones. I had the flip phones where I had to press the 9 button to get the S 4 times. I wish it was there because it would allow students to actually interact with colleges with peers and with professionals for industries that they're considering to going into. That is a really good thing. A professional network is never too early to establish.
Okay, so would that, on like the realm of that, would that be like making a social media site, say for sports? Would that be trying to get colleges to look at you that way?
It could be done that way. It could be done through their personal sites. When students apply to colleges, a lot of the times the admission offices look for their Facebook page, look for their Twitter account, just to learn a little bit more about the student as a whole, rather than what's just on the application. So yes, anything that they set up there, becoming members of groups, of learning groups in LinkedIn or in Facebook, those types of things really help build your resume to help you get into colleges or pursue a career that you want to pursue.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Does it matter for your careers too? Do your careers look at your social media pages?
Yes, it absolutely does. In fact, when you go to apply for a job, the majority of human resources directors out there, that's the first thing they do, is they look at your social media. They look at your Facebook pages. They want to see what you are all about and whether or not you would fit in with their culture in their workforce.
Yeah.
They want to find out who you actually talk with, what type of what type of connections that you have, and how many resources you have access to. So,
Yeah,
yes.
that has been really helpful.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today and helping us better understand why the school has such restrictions on their internet access. Social media can be beneficial to you in many ways, but it can also be detrimental to you in the future. Remember, if you won't say it to someone's face, then don't say it online. Thank you for watching and have a great day.